Africa with 400 million black people can do it. If you cannot do it, if you are not prepared to do it, then you will die. You race of cowards, you race of imbeciles, you race of good for nothing. If you cannot do what other men have done, what other nations have done, what other races have done, then you had better die.
Nothing they gave us is better than what we have. And we need to understand that we had a story way before any story that was ever given to us. And this is not an attack on belief, but yes, it does apply to any story. I do mean any story, from Hebrew to Muslim to Jewish to Christianity, all of it. Our story comes from before then. Tonight, we're going to talk about the timeline of civilization. For those of you who already know some of this stuff, just bear with me. For my family members who don't know this stuff, we need to catch you up to speed. When you're talking about the timeline of civilization or civilization itself, BCE and CE, that's before Common Era and Common Era. So when you're looking at the timeline, starting at the beginning is BCE, before Common Era, and it goes backwards. So let's say tonight we're going to start at 14,000 BCE. It starts at the back, 14,000, and it works its way down the years to zero. At zero, it turns to CE or Common Era, and it works from zero up to 2026 or where we're at today. That's very important because you need to understand it. If you don't know how the timeline works, or you can't have a perspective on the timeline, then you won't understand how far their stories are away from what we created. Around 200,000 BCE is when people started leaving the continent of Africa. So that's where you'll hear people tell you, oh, well, we're all Africans. At the end of the day, we all started it in Africa. It started with the hominins. From hominins became Homo sapiens. From the Homo sapiens, you have us. Now, all of this takes place on the continent of Africa. Let's get back to it. 14,700 to 10,000 BCE, the end of the last ice age. The northern hemisphere started to heat up. Now we have what's called the African human period from 10,000 BCE to 6,200 BCE. The African human period is when the Sahara is green, what we know as the Saharan desert, the Nubian desert, all these deserts around Africa. They weren't deserts at that time. It was all green. There were civilizations thriving all over Africa. This is important. You need to know this. Why is this important? Because yes, there were people in other places, but there were no recorded other civilizations. The next thing you have is like Mesopotamia. People will try to argue with you, well, Mesopotamians were first. And that's where you get your Anunnaki story, by the way. For the people who are trying to tell you that you came from aliens and all that shit, that is not your story. That is from Mesopotamia. It's important because during the African human period, when all these civilizations was going on, you had cultures like the Nabta Playa culture. They were in the region of the Nubian desert, which it wasn't a desert at that time. Also, keep in mind that at Nabta Playa, it was the Nabta Playa, the stone circles, which is important because they were aligned with the solstice. And this was 6,500 BCE. They made this calendar aligned to the stars. 3,000 years later, they say around 3,000 BCE to anywhere around 1,500 BCE was Stonehenge. They tell you that Stonehenge is a great marvel and, about the civilization that created it. But 3,000 years before that, your ancestors had created the stone circles in Nabta Playa. There's so much more in between this, but I'm just trying to give you guys the truth and the facts of that you have a story. You had a story before any other story was created. There are other people around the world, but there's no other civilization that has came to the point of being able to map out the stars, having any spiritual content on any intellect. The people were still in the stage of hunter-gatherer, if that, at that time, outside of Africa. Why is that important? Because every story you have, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, whatever the case may be, there was a story going on thousands of years before that was created. And what was the story? It was you. It was us. And you need to know that. If it's not a big deal, why are they trying to erase it? Why don't you know that? Why were you handed Christianity before you knew that you had a story? For those of you who are, this is new news to you and you got to go look it up and you might not even believe what I'm saying. Why is that? Why is that? But if I get on here and I tell you about the prophet or about Jesus, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Why is that? Do you think that's an accident? Not at all. In the year 6200, what they call the 8.2 kilo year event. Look it up. 8.2 kilo year event. What happened is all that water that had pooled up at the end of the last ice age when the glaciers had melted had been pooling all those years. So in 6200, the 8.2 kilo year event happens and the ice dams break. The water dams break. It starts to flood, which causes the climate to change. When the climate changes, now you start to have the creation of what we know today as like the Saharan desert, the Nubian desert, all of that lush continent of Africa, all of those civilizations, they start to migrate towards water. Where's the biggest source of water streaming through Africa? The Nile. They start to migrate to the Nile. We had cattle. You need water to live. It's logical. It's not even, and that's important too. Let me say that because it's not mythical. Everything I'm telling you is facts. It's not mythical. You don't have to believe it by faith. We created this. You understand? And we also had a spiritual concept. No, we did not believe in many gods. We believed in God and the aspects of the Most High. And maybe that's something for another video, but let's keep rolling. We migrate towards the Nile. Yes, there are already people there. It's important that I say this because they would try to tell you, yeah, it was already people there. It were the people from Canaan or the Levant. Did you guys know that? Did you know that the Levant is Canaan, right outside of Egypt, or what we know as Kemet? Is all the stuff that you hear in your Bible, Canaan, Damascus, Jerusalem, is like right there. Did you know that it was a time when our brothers, black as us, ruled that land, when we had to drive out the Hyksos? But I'm getting ahead of myself. We migrate towards the Nile. There are people there, which are the Tigarians. There were some other people, but all of them were Nile Valley Africans, indigenous Nile Valley Africans. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them try to tell you no bullshit. When these people merge, we start to form cultures like the Badarians, people like the Tigarians, the Badarians, the Nakata culture. All of these cultures eventually become, it's a Nakata 1, Nakata 2, and Nakata 3. Nakata 3 is Proto-Kemet. There is no Egypt or Kemet yet at this time. It's just these civilizations merging towards the Nile and what we know as Kemet or Egypt, with some people already there, indigenous Nile Valley Africans. Again, they start to merge. So why is this important? Everybody who's like, okay, well, no, I'm a Ghanaian. I come from this part of Africa. I'm from this part of Africa. I'm from that part of Africa. Understand this. There is no part of Africa that's not a part of Kemet. Let me say that again. There's no part of Africa that did not go into the mixing pot that created Kemet, what we know as Egypt. That's important. Why? We are all a family. We are all tied in, and that makes a difference because once we know that, then we start to treat each other different. Then you start to teach your kids a sense of pride that makes it to where they don't want to hurt another black man or disrespect the black woman because they really feel like, damn, that's my family member. But we ain't never going to feel like that because why? Because it's always the divisiveness. It's the booby trap that the enemy put in there of divisiveness. And when I say enemy, I'm not talking about just a white man or just this or just that, because there were many enemies. Don't get it twisted. We were invaded many times. Like I said, this timeline that I'm giving y'all is just the gist of it. There's so many, you have so many stories, so much history within those years. We just went from 14,700 BCE to where we at now, 6,200 BCE. Imagine how much story goes on between that time. And this is stuff that you have no clue about. And while it was going on, the people who wrote your Bible, your Quran, and your whatever did not even fucking exist. Sorry. It's the truth. 6,200. Okay, these people start to merge. Mind you, this is from 6,200 all the way up to now. We're all the way up to around 3,000 BCE. This migration didn't just happen overnight. Like I told you, this is the continent of Africa. every culture. So it's going from like the 8.2 kilo year event all the way up to around 3200, 3300 BCE. That's when you have Narmer, who unites the two lands, upper and lower, what we call upper and lower Kemet. Y'all probably going crazy in the comments like, but what about this and what about that? Trust me, I know. But I'm just trying to get the people a gist and help them understand that they had a story before this. For anything they were given, nothing they gave us is better than what we had. We understand this. When Narmer unites the two lands, now we have Kemet. These are your brothers. This is not disputed. This is not myth. This is not a conspiracy theory. Look it up. Do your research. These are your brothers. There's no question about it. When Kemet gets united, we rule for thousands of years, all the way up until 1650, when the first invasion happened. The first time any foreign anything came to our borders was the Hyksos, which were West Asians. Where is West Asia? Can I see this map? You can't, it ain't even close enough. But where is West Asia, what they call the Middle East? If you're crazy enough to believe that that's the Middle East of anything, look at the map. It's West Asia. You had a story for thousands of years. Thousands. Now, keep in mind, we went from 14,700 BCE, the end of the last ice age, all the way to 1650 BCE. Do the math on that. That many thousands of years is how long your story ran before there was any foreign anything, before anything came in to disrupt what you had going on or what you had learned. So when the Hyksos come in, this takes us to what I was getting at when I said that we ruled that land. They talk about in the Bible. When the Hyksos came in, our brother Amos 1 was the one. Of course, the story is greater than this, but just to put the gist to it, Amos 1 was the person to drive the Hyksos out. When he drove the Hyksos out, he learned a lesson. We realized that our borders were weak. We were too trusting. You know what I mean? They got in too easy. So when he pushed them back up through Lower Egypt, like the Delta, up lower, you know what I mean? Up low. Remember, it's reversed. Okay. So when he pushed them back up through Lower Egypt, Lower Kemet, he doesn't stop at Lower Kemet. He continues over the border. He crosses over the border. What's directly over the border? The very next thing you come to when you come out of Egypt or Kemet, the Levant or Canaan. He takes this land and we rule this land for hundreds of years. Hundreds of years. In fact, around the time when we started to lose that land, I believe it's called the first peace treaty ever known to man was the Battle of Kadesh. Look it up. It was our brother, your brother. This is your story. Just to put this in context, because after this, we could talk for another hour, because literally it's like the Hyksos, the Assyrians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Arabs, Islam, Christianity, all of these things later come and invade us, right? So we could talk for hours, and we will. The lecture is coming where I'm going to break down every detail along this way. My path in the beginning, from the beginning, was not to do videos or to teach or to do nothing like that. I just wanted to know our story. That's it. I just wanted to know my story. I just know. Y'all ever played that message game in school where the person in the back of the room whispers something in the other person's ear, and then they whisper it all the way down the line, all the way to the person in the front. And by the time it gets to the front, the message so fucked up, it don't sound nothing like what the original message was. Well, I mean, that's true. Y'all know that's true. You just seen it happen time and time again. You know it's true. The only way for you to have the original message at the end of the game, what did they do? The person who originally said the message had to tell you what they said. Well, Dua Nature, it's a blessing for us that our ancestors told us what they said. It's in stone. They can't hide it. They tried to erase it. They tried to lie to you. They gave you all kind of stories, all kind of shit, bullshit to pacify you and keep you from knowing that you can govern yourself. They try to give you all these things outside of you and all these instructions and commands on how to govern yourself and how to be right with your higher power. How silly does that sound when you think about it? Your higher power. Matter of fact, you say my name before. This is how you get to your higher power. You say my name. Come on. You know what? I ain't even gonna go there. To get the message, you got to go back to the source. So I went back to the source. I just started going backwards and I started studying. I studied a lot of different things. I studied Christianity. I studied Islam. I studied Buddhism. I studied alchemy. I studied all these things on my journey to the truth, Hebrew. Now, this is an important thing about my brothers, the Hebrew Israelites, right? When you hear these brothers on the corner, they screaming from the top of their lungs, like the black people is the real Hebrew Israelites. Well, there is validity to that. There's validity to that because I just told you there was a time that we literally, when Kemet, now Valley Africans, literally ruled that region of the Levant where Hebrew Israelites were born. Coincidence or no coincidence? They are born literally in the same, right as the time when I'm talking about the Battle of Kadesh and when we lose in that region is when the Hebrew Israelites are born. So again, it's not an attack on their religion, but what I'm telling you, my brothers, is it's not your story. How do I know that? Because I know that to get the proper message, to get the message as it was originally said, you have to go all the way back to the person that said it. Why would you fight against that? That's like saying when you playing that message game, when the game is over and the last person says something that's completely different than first person said, you like, nah, that can't be what they said. Nah, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Oh, I'd rather, no, what he said is better. That sounds silly. It sounds just as silly as taking information or taking water from downstream. You have a story before they even gave you a story. So let me go ahead and drive that home. Okay. When we start talking about 1650, when the Hyksos came about, at this time, there is nothing. There is no Hebrew Israelites. There is no Christianity. There is no Islam. There's no nothing. As people start to raid and the time starts to go on from Assyrians, from Romans, from Greeks and all this different stuff. I got to skip over that because I want to get to the point. I got to give y'all this because they try to trick y'all like this, right? They be like, you're not Egyptian. And you look over there today and you look at the people, you be like, well, they don't look like me. Or they dig up a body and they be like, well, we did DNA and this person has Asian descent or they're from the Levant. And no fucking duh. Picture a West Asian man raping or having a way with one of your black sisters as black as me. And then picture, and then they have babies. And then as soon as we get them out of there, the Syrians come, which is like, you talking like Iran and modern day Iran and shit, like coming in now, they raping your sisters and mothers and daughters that look like you. What them babies gonna look like? And then you get the Romans who do the same thing. And then you get the Greeks who do the same thing, right? And you got the Arabs who do the same thing. Now, what are those people gonna look like? Think about it. They're gonna look like the people who they are today. That's why you're gonna find bones like that. Don't let them pull the wool over your eyes and give you that bullshit. It all makes sense. It ain't nothing mythical about it. It ain't no spookism about it. The man that we know is Yahushua, or that y'all call Jesus mistakenly, he was reported to have died between 30 and 33 CE. It's recorded. It's not a fucking myth. It's not no spookism. The man known as Yahushua passed between 30 and 33 CE. I believe Saul or Paul, somebody, whoever it was to write the first letters, wrote them like 30 years later. Also keep in mind that when they wrote them letters and they started talking that bullshit and trying to deify him, they had to beef with his real brother and his real family, James. But listen, I ain't here to argue none of y'all believe. Y'all know everything. I'm just pointing out that we have a story before any of that. So it's a good thing. None of that shit matter to me. I don't care about arguing with you about none of that. Because the truth is, all of that shit comes after what my ancestors created.
Good answer.
For my people who want to have a clue, man, who feel something off, who've been feeling something off, don't let them pull the wool over your eyes, man. There's still no Christianity or nothing like that, right? That doesn't come to like, I want to say 300 something CE. Mind you, we went from all the way at 14,700 BCE, all those thousands of years, 14,700 years down to zero. Now we went all the way up to 33 when Yahushua passed. And then years after that, then now hundreds of years after that, when Christianity is born and when Constantine comes in, that's when you start hearing about the Nicene Creed and all that stuff. Go a few, like 300 more years to 610 CE. That's when the prophet has the revelations from the angel Jabril in the cave. For the next 40 years, he continues to have those revelations. Those revelations are what you know as the Quran. Again, what is my point in saying that? Not because I'm here to argue anybody's faith or belief. I'm here to tell you that you had a story before anybody gave you a story. And this is the thing. Everything that I just told you tonight, I bet you nobody told you that before they told you that you should read your Bible every day, that you should pray like this, that you should do this, you should do that. This is the only way you can talk to your Most High. This is the only way this is going to happen. You should pray 5 times a day, and you got to do it like this, and you got to do it like that. And you never heard none of what I'm talking about that went on thousands of years before the people who created this stuff, the stories that you have. I'm telling you, it is a fact. These people didn't even exist when your people had already mapped it out, when they already understood that the way was Mayat, order, balance, truth, reciprocity. You didn't live by fucking commandments. You live by you live by balance. Every morning you said your 42 confessions. You know, I shall not, I shall not, I shall not. And all day you working towards that. That's what's in your conscience. That's what's in your spirit, is to be right, is to be in alignment. The end of the day, you say the 42 again, except this time you're not saying I shall, you're saying I have not, I have not, I have not. And when you get to something where you can't righteously or consciously say I have not, and you done fucked around and you done did that day, then that's where you need balance. And if you crazy enough to think that the next person can pay for that for you, or fix that for you, or give you some type of balance, or you can wait for a motherfucker to come from the sky to save you, and that you don't have to fix your balance and get in alignment with the Most High and be right and fix your injustices, any of your injustices, any of your shadow work, anything inside of you that needs to be fixed, you have to do that. It ain't nobody that can do that for you. Yes, there's a divine source. He ain't far away from you. You don't got to go looking for him. He in you. Ancestors, they talking to you. I know you feel it. You feel it. You can feel it in the world. Do you know they viewed us in such a way that there was a time when they used to steal our bodies and crush our ancestors' bones up and crush it into fucking powder and try to make medicine out of it. That's how crazy they was with it. That's how much they revered us as who we are. They felt like if they could even just crush up our bones and get a little dust of it, it'll heal them. Look it up. It was called Mumia. When I redo this video, I'm gonna post it up here for y'all, man. I'm not bullshitting. They used to take our ancestors' bodies, man, and take them overseas and to London and place like that. And when they have dinner parties and shit, our ancestors' body would be the spectacle. They would unwrap our ancestors' bodies and shit for, I guess, entertainment. That shouldn't sit well with you. You know why that's never mattered? Because you never known that story. And that's on purpose. It's on purpose that you don't know that story. If anybody you talking about, oh, why does it matter? It matters. It matters because right now they're over there still digging up our secrets right now, having their way. Do you know how, as a black person, a person from the diaspora, or even probably even a person in Africa, try to become an Egyptian naturalist and claim your heritage, and see what they tell you? Like, this is crazy. They are having their way with us. But you know why they've been able to have their way with us? Because we've been so confused and so lulled to sleep, so thrown off, that like we don't have a clue, man. We on bullshit. Our life is sports and money and rap and who can flash this and who, like, we're so not focused on what we should be focused on. And that's on purpose. And we got to stop. And the first part of being able to stop and to grab hold of something is to grab hold of our story. We have a story. We have a foundation. We have a root, all of us together, everybody, the people in the diaspora, the people everywhere, UK, London, my black souls everywhere. We are one. You came from the continent of Africa. And if you're saying that your bloodline don't come from there, then you might need to be in a fucking mental institution. Excuse me. As you can see, I don't pull no punches. I say what I want to say. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you what you, like my cousin like to say. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to know. Everybody, we are one. So for anybody, I've heard a lot of our brothers drop that shit about, regular black. What the fuck is regular black? There is no such thing as regular black. Anything that's black is excellence. And I had to say something because I see it in my comments, man. These people, and I ain't just gonna put on one people, but there's a lot of people, different races and stuff like that. People are bold. You know what I'm saying? And they'll say the silliest shit. The silliest shit. If I didn't know any better, then I'd be all over the place. But thank God I know, and I went searching for myself. That's why you can't be fucking around believing by faith on something as serious as your soul. Like, share, subscribe to the channel, follow the page. I am Nesu NG. This is Dynasty Media Group. And I need y'all to remember that y'all had a story before any story ever given to y'all. And there is nothing that they gave us that is better than what we had. Peace.